Good evening and welcome to Brother TV. I'm your host, Sean Young, and we're glad to be back another season. I hope everybody has been having a blessed new year and getting things rolling and being active in this new year. Tonight we have somebody who's not a stranger to the show. He's been on a few times before, and we just want to catch up with him on tonight and see what new things he has going on in the community. Our guest tonight is Brother Duron Chavis, also known as Brother Manifest. And as I stated, he's not a stranger to the show. He's been here before, and the last time he was here, he dropped a lot of knowledge on us about community gardening and the importance of growing your own food. And we want to kind of continue that discussion and, again, see what he has new going on. So welcome to the show again, and thank you for being here. And we'll go ahead and jump right into it. What have you been? What's been going on since the last show?
All right. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you having me. Man, it's been a whirlwind of activity since last time we were here. We've definitely made some really, really powerful moves. We developed two new sites.
Okay.
Since last time we were here, our first site, my organization, Renew Richmond, and me and my partner, John Lewis, we developed the community garden at Swansboro Baptist Church.
Okay.
At the corner of Crushfield and Roanoke. And right after that, we were blessed to have an opportunity to work with my alma mater, George Wolfe High School,
Okay.
and the installation of gardens inside of the school to teach the kids urban agriculture and business as well as culinary arts. So it's been magnificent, man. We've been making some really positive connections. Some significant moves are being made, and some more things are in the works. Like I said, my organization, Renew Richmond, our focus is on increasing healthy food access.
Okay.
And also our focus is on education about principles for sustainable agriculture.
Right.
So we want to, show the people that you do have the capacity to, not only grow your own food for your own self-sufficiency, but you also have the opportunity to grow food for economic empowerment at the same time. So these connections that we've made over the last what, probably like, I would say what? Like
about 6 to 8 months.
6 to 8 months, yeah. We made some major moves in 6 to 8 months. It's been really powerful and blessed. The Swansboro Community Garden site is connected to George Wolfe.
Okay.
The way that we work that project out is we, in partnership with Swansboro Baptist and Revelay Methodist Church, we were able to foster a partnership through those two entities and develop 24 raised beds, about 900 square feet of growing space on a vacant housing lot. So we basically transformed what used to be an area that had a house on it into a backyard garden. It's a mini farm, so to speak.
So is it close to the church, or is it?
The church is on the corner of Roanoke and Midlothian, and the garden is directly behind the church on Crushfield Street. So
Okay.
if you're familiar with that area, Crushfield, is the same street that George Wolfe is on.
Right.
And the garden itself is about 4 blocks from the high school. Now, what we'll be doing with the high school is that the students that participate in the urban agriculture after school program that we have they'll have the opportunity to grow food at that Swansboro site for entrepreneurial purposes. So they'll be participating in the program with economic incentives. So basically they'll be able to get paid based off of the food that they grow, the capacity, and selling it at local farmers markets and to other vendors in the Richmond community.
That's an interesting point you brought up as far as partnering with the churches. Have you found it to be a struggle with partnering with, I don't know if you tried to partner with other churches or faith organizations in the past, but have you found it to be a struggle?
No. The energy that, we bring to the table, we're very clear on what we're doing.
Okay.
So, when we come in to any partner and we articulate what our mission is, people, they either get it or they don't.
Right.
And so for the most part, all potential partners have become partners because what we're about is empowerment in the most visceral and tangible sense of the word empowerment. We give folks the skills, we'll help develop the site, and we paint the picture of the capacity for the site for individuals. And when people understand the capacity for vacant parcels of land to be developed into economic opportunities for themselves, it's usually who can say no to the opportunity to make money, and at the same time make a difference. See, we operate primarily in food deserts, or areas that don't have access to healthy fresh vegetables and fruits.
Right.
So because we come in with the conversation that this work is about filling a gap and addressing the health disparities that the African American community faces, typically with that conversation alone about social impact, people are already, that's the buy-in.
Okay.
When we paint the picture about this is also a sustainable program that has economic incentives attached to it, then it's like a double whammy.
Gotcha.
Because you're not only making a difference in the community, but you also have the opportunity to make money at the same time.
And, I talk with a lot of young people and they talk about, well, I need money, they want to buy shoes or buy whatever they want to. They want to have that sense of independence, and they say, well, I can't get a job because I'm too young, or, I need a lot of money to start a business, or I don't know what business to start. So this seems like a good plan. Like you said, it takes care of several facets of life, not only the economic component, but, they're able to get exercise by, working in the garden, also able to grow fruits and vegetables, but also gives them, I don't know, it seems like a sense of seeing something grow from a seed to a tree or a plant,
That's very true. See, the work that we do around urban agriculture, it touches on all levels of human experience. Specifically, particularly, in addition to the economics, in addition to the health ramifications, it also has environmental ramifications.
Okay.
Because we're talking about, creating spaces where food can be produced, which cuts out the amount of traffic that you have to invest in for food to come into your area, neighborhood.
Okay.
So that's gas. That's reduction in gas for shipping food here and there. That's reduction in plastics.
Okay.
That's also helping with rainwater catchment, because when we deal with the gardens, we try to create situations where we can catch the rainwater and use it for the gardens. So because Richmond's sewer system is archaic in many ways. That also incentivizes buildings and facilities to figure out ways that they can capture water and keep it, on their site and make it functional and useful for their site. So those are all, environmental pieces. And then when we talk about local foods, and increasing the biodiversity of an area, that's basically creating a situation where there's more plants in the area growing, whether it be flowers, perennials, or even just food. That's helping increase the amount of bees, pollinators, butterflies, all those things that are intrinsic to a healthy ecology.
Okay.
In the city. So we really focus on reclamation of spaces. We live in a jungle of concrete, pretty much, and we've been disconnected from agriculture and from the earth, from the planet in many ways, due to the fact that we live in these cities. We're on top of each other every day. All we know is cars and phones and computers and televisions and things like that. So it gives an opportunity for people to get away from all that stuff and get back to some very basic human needs, putting your hands in the dirt and dealing with Mother Nature and dealing with the growing and life, biology, and the ecology itself is a very, grounding thing. It kind of, it's just you. And the Creator and what He's gifted us with as human beings. Right,
and I guess I assume you get an opportunity, like you said, to get back to basics. We've gotten, like you said, far away from with the technology. Technology is constantly at our hand. Cell phones, computers, and we have to learn how to deal with those pieces of technology. But like you said, getting back to the land, I think is important.
I think that's very important. We're probably about 2-3 generations removed from, dealing with the land in many ways.
Right.
1950s, 1960s is mass migration for black
Right.
people from out of, rural areas into these cities.
Right.
And, because of that was many different reasons why that happened. But one of the things we lost as a result was that work ethic, that like we did this with our own hands, that I'm not waiting on anybody to come and, feed me.
Right.
Because,
Right.
I got a farm in the backyard, or,
Right.
I got a garden, talk to people's grandparents.
Right.
And that's the conversation that they have about, even if they went to the market and all that different type of, they still had their own little situations where in some ways they were feeding themselves in many ways. So we're trying to bring that energy back. And not for the sense of just, deleting the technology, because that's essential, but, just to balance, it out for us and put that into play so we have a deeper sense of spirituality in our connection, to the cycle of life.
And speaking on the spiritual aspect, how have the young people at George Wythe, how have they taken to this project and this movement?
We started the garden at George Wythe, the gardens at George Wythe in October. Our work was sponsored by Capital One. And what they did is they brought in Capital One volunteers, and we had students from the science classes, technology classes, and the culinary arts classes come out and help the building of the garden itself. So that was everything from planting to building the raised bed boxes to tilling the soil, to even helping with mulching and things like that. So they were very excited, man, and it was inspirational to me to see that level of enthusiasm from the students, because there were classes that were participating, but there are other classes that weren't. And some of the kids that were there, they were like, "Man, why I can't do this? Why I can't be a part of it?"
Wow,
So they were hype about it, and I remember this one girl. She participated. It was a three-day work project. So on the second day, she came and she was like, I'm coming back tomorrow. I'm putting my name on this shovel. So when I come back tomorrow, make sure I get the same shovel.
Wow.
So, it was really exciting. People have this this conditioning about our youth that they are not going to connect with things that are relevant and that have substance, and it's a myth, because
exactly,
and that was something that I always knew that, but it was really good to see the kids dig into this thing and be like, "Yo, what do you need me to do? How can I do it? What do you need me to do?" Even kids having conversations like, "Yeah, my grandfather had this and that,"
Wow,
So they were there and they're ready, and that's how. This piece is a passion project for me. Being I went to Whip, while I was there, I'm thinking to myself like, "Dang, man, I wish something like this would have been there for me." At my youth, because this is an opportunity to expand horizons. Just introducing the students to concepts around social enterprise and urban agriculture and just business. All these components that are intrinsic to the program. These are things that at that age you're at that point where you're making decisions about what your future is going to look like.
Exactly.
And so when somebody comes and gives you a panorama of opportunity, say, "Hey, man, sky's the limit." Because really with this type of project, that's what it is. It's about how much you put into it, and that's really the metaphor of the garden. That is the reality of life. Is that you get out what you put in.
What you put in, right?
So if you plant those seeds and you take care of it, you water it every day, and you focus on it, and you cultivate it, you make sure nothing is in the way to stifle the growth. Then you're gonna get that bountiful harvest. But if you really just kind of like whatever with it, then it's gonna be. You're gonna get the results of that.
A bunch of weeds growing up, and nothing being productive.
So I think that this for the kids have been really receptive, really excited, about it, and the moment we put in the conversation about economic incentives,
money says,
it definitely changes the vibration of the conversation, and so that's being an adult. With our teens, is like, "Hey, man, you can make money now. This ain't nobody say you gotta wait to go to college, or you gotta wait until you graduate, and you gotta wait for a job. You can create a job,
Right.
You know, based on these, if you have the right elements and resources, or figure out ways to get them, then you can make your situation what you want it to be. It's about creating your reality.
Wow.
Yeah, it's about creating your reality.
So are there a lot of young people who are taking advantage of the raised beds at the church site?
Not yet. See,
Okay.
we were doing a lot of work to try to prep the site for this spring season.
Okay.
So there were things that were in the way, such as we had to secure our water source and make sure that the faucets and stuff like that were installed.
Mm-hmm.
We had a couple of beds that weren't filled with soil, so we had to add some amendments and things like that.
Okay.
Right now, we're in the process of putting in a hoop house, which is a structure that will allow for us to grow food all year round.
Okay.
Summer.
Kind of like a greenhouse type.
Yeah, kind of like a greenhouse. It's basically a half circle. It looks like a dome structure.
Okay.
And, that's going to be amazing. Once that's set up, man, I'm so excited because this is real deal, farm enterprise type of work, and these industry standard structures, really maximizes the capacity for for economics at the space. And so I keep throwing it back to economics, and the reason why I try to keep that conversation going is because food is a commodity, and we try to put that on the forefront. Like, hey man, everybody has to eat.
Yeah.
There's nobody on this planet that doesn't have to have food.
Right.
And in America, we're blessed to have money circulating. It's not like some third world countries.
Right.
But in this case, if people gonna buy food, why are you not growing it to sell?
Right.
So
right.
That's a big deal for us. But that Swansboro site, we had students from Reveille who came and helped us build the site. So that was 13, 14, 15-year-olds in the summer program that came over the course of 3 days and helped us build the entire site.
Wow.
So the kids at Swansboro will be participating, because this is really not just for WIF kids, it's for all of them, but we're really focusing the after school program at WIF.
At WIF, okay.
We'll be doing activities more intrinsic to just the local neighborhood as well.
Okay.
So yeah, that's soon come. This is just, we're piloting this thing right now.
Okay. And I heard you talk about funding from Capital One. As far as, starting a community garden, I think we kind of got into this a little bit last time, but how easy is it to start a community garden?
Now it's not hard.
Okay.
What's hard about it is making sure that whoever is ready to do it is ready to put in that long haul work.
Okay.
There's nothing worse than starting a garden and then letting it go to crap.
Okay.
That's actually That's actually more harmful, because what happens is that people lose interest and it becomes, something it's disenchanting to the community. So, getting the funds for it, man. There's tons of grants out here nowadays. It doesn't take a lot of money to build a community garden. You can get a lot of stuff donated. You can repurpose a lot of stuff. Working with local vendors, you can get seeds and whatever type of transplants you may need.
Okay.
There's the city of Richmond is kind of taking a really avant-garde stance in terms of letting Parks and Rec sites that are unused or vacant be transformed into community gardens for very low fees. It's like $25 a year.
Wow.
And
okay.
that energy has really opened up the conversation, the ease of the conversation, highly. So you just have to have buy-in from your community, people who are ready to work the site, or have a team.
Okay.
That's going to do that, with you, because it's not to say it's difficult to manage a site by yourself, but we all have lives and other things that we have going on. So,
right.
If you have the fortitude to be able to do it by yourself, then by all means, go forth and conquer. But with these community, emphasis on the word community. Your residential areas, the people that live in the neighborhood, having them to buy in once the site is set up, or typically, maybe only a few people that's building the site. But once the site is set up and the people in the community have clear channels of communication for how to contact folks that are building it and that are managing it, it takes off. We built that garden on 33rd in McDonough, the McDonough Community Garden, about 2 years ago. And what happened is that the neighborhood jumped all over it. You know, folks that lived in the neighborhood, they came out, started renting plots.
Wow.
Emails, you know, from folks that want to get plots because they have shaded backyards. They can't grow food in their parcels of land that their homes are on. And so, yeah, we have 30 raised beds. We have probably about 17, 18 gardeners because we built the other 15 later on in the year. You know, it was already close to the end of the season. But this spring, yeah, it's going to be a really interesting vibration because the conversation about community gardens and urban agriculture is really vibrant amongst the you know, the funding community. You know, thankful for all the folks that have been, you know, pushing this conversation to the forefront, especially around local food and just, you know, increasing healthy food access for folks. But yeah, it's a good time to be dealing with this type of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I see it, you know, you not only see it on a local level, but a national level. I mean, you even hear, you know, Michelle Obama, you know, talking about food deserts. I think a few years ago she did a video, and, you know, it's something that's very important.
Our garden on McDonough is a people's garden.
Okay.
Michelle Obama's campaign, Let's Move, has a component to it that deals with, you know, community gardens. If you're sustainable in your gardening practices, and you know, you also give food to charity. You know, you're eligible to be signed up with that, and that's something that we're really honored to be a part of in terms of just, you know, connecting the dots.
Right.
You know, on a national level, as far as this movement around increasing healthy food access for areas that are designated as food deserts.
Okay. And that's something that's practical, and you know, I like to talk about practical solutions. You know, especially, you know, in our community. You know, for some of us, we think it takes rocket science to get things done, but I mean, there's simple things that we can do, especially like you said, growing food. You know. And it doesn't just have to be, I guess, in urban areas. But if somebody wanted, you know, was out in a rural area or in a suburban area, or even wherever you may be, I mean, you can start a garden. I've seen people on TV, people living in apartments. You know, they'll start something in their windowsill. I mean,
it is definitely, you know, accessible. You know. It's one of the most accessible things that you can do because it's one of the oldest things that human beings have been doing. You know,
right.
Now they always think about organized towns and cities and things like that from even ancient times. You know, one of the things that designated them or allowed cities to towns to transform into cities, you know, is having organized food production.
Okay.
Which is basically farms.
Right.
You know, to feed the, you know, masses of people that were coming into these hubs of human activity. So, you know, even today, you know, we'll find a way. You know, I think that the apartment gardening and balcony gardening balcony gardening or gardening in your home, or however you want to get it in, is amazing. But I definitely advocate for, you know, coming together.
Right, with the community gardens.
Yeah, man, because that's something that we need to do. We got to get connected to each other. You know, one of the things that the garden has shown me is that it's a space that cuts across, you know, socioeconomic, race, religious, you know what I'm saying, whatever your, you know, box that you put yourself in that says I'm this and they're that. Right. The garden kind of levels that playing field.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's like, yeah, I think one of the biggest divisions, maybe I do organic and you do some chemical, you know, GMO stuff. That's the only it's the only boxes like people like. But it really, I've seen it happen too, you know, at the garden. People that had never met that live in the neighborhood, you know, they are meeting for the first time. Wow. At the garden. Right. You know, talking about, you know, best practices and, you know, or what they cooked or, you know, things like that. So it really does expand those communal bonds. Right. It's one of the best, I think one of the biggest benefits of community gardening is, and just these green spaces, period, whether it be gardens or parks, you know, in neighborhoods. Right. It allows people to have a focal point, a place that they can come to. Right. And, you know, just we all live on the planet, man.
There's a common bond.
Yeah.
And I want to kind of use that as a segue. I'm kind of glad you brought that up because, one of the, topics that I told you I wanted to talk about was this Jordan Davis incident. It happened 2 years ago. The verdict was read, I guess it was Saturday. Mm-hmm. They deliberated. For those of you who may not know what we're talking about, it's a young man named Jordan Davis in, I think, Jacksonville, Florida. Yeah. And he and a group of friends were out, and they were at a gas station and in their car listening to music. A gentleman and his fiance drove up to the gas station, and the music was playing loud. So the guy, Michael Dunn, asked them or told them to turn the music down, and supposedly it was turned down, but a few seconds later it was turned back up, and he felt that something threatening was said to him, so he shoots 9-10 times into the car, killing Jordan Davis. Young man was 16, 17 years old. It was a group of teenagers. The verdict was read on Saturday. He had 4 counts. The first count was for first degree murder. Then there were 3 counts of attempted murder, and the last count was for, I think it was firing a missile or some type of, yeah. So he was found guilty on 4 counts, the 3 counts of attempted murder, and then the last count of firing a missile into a vehicle. Right. The first count, though, it was a mistrial. They couldn't determine whether it was murder or not. They had the option to a first-degree murder, but also the option of a lesser charge, such as second-degree murder or manslaughter. But they couldn't come to an agreement on it being murder, so it was a mistrial. And as you talked about, people coming together, different socioeconomic statuses, and our own boxes that we put ourselves in. That's a great example of how, if people would have come together in a community and would have had that opportunity. It just speaks volumes. So what has been your take on not only Jordan Davis trial, but when we were on the air before, it was Trayvon Martin situation, and there's been so many cases since then where young black males have been killed under the guise of this stand your ground law. Yeah. So what's your take on that?
Well, I think first of all, it's a stretch to call him a gentleman.
I was trying to be real. Yeah, I got you.
I think that there's a pattern, that has been very apparent for years in terms of the justice system and its relationship to people of African descent. Mm-hmm. But we get glossy-eyed and we forget that the pattern exists. Mm-hmm. By and large, the justice system, again, as it has over and over again, told you that the value of black life pales in comparison to someone of European or Caucasian ancestry. Okay. So this is a continuation of the same behavior that we saw when the first African was brought to, Virginia and sold out of Jamestown. Right. Okay. So I'm not, by any means, my take on it is that it's the same enemy, the same beast that's been, devouring, our community. When I say ours, the people of African ancestry's community, right, for over 400 years. So it's not, by me, I'm not to say I wasn't surprised, I was disappointed. Mm-hmm. Again, I was hurt, disenchanted, but I'm not surprised. It happened with, like you said, Trayvon Martin, with Oscar Grant, right, with Sean Bell, with Patrick Dorisman, Abner Louima. The list is virtually endless, right, of the individuals that have been murdered by, either police violence or just random acts of violence against, people of African ancestry.
Right.
The biggest issue that I have is that, as, quote unquote citizens, we're supposed to be protected,
right.
under the law, but we're not. For the guy to get off on the murder charge lets me know that if I was in that position, then I'd have been incarcerated, because I know many people of color, the moment they go into that courtroom, they may not have the financial resources to have adequate legal representation or sufficient legal representation to get a charge knocked down. But for this guy to just get attempted murder when somebody was murdered.
Right. I mean, that's the thing that threw me.
It's not a contradiction, because they were just trying to, the system found a way to let the guy slide in that sense. Now, the stand your ground laws, in Florida, yeah, we have a lot of energy in our community to try to repeal those laws, but the repealing of the law itself does not change the behavior and the thought pattern that allows for the actual act to take place.
Right.
And that's the conversation that we really have to talk about, is like who or what is what is the source of this? And we say racism, we say white supremacy, we say Western hegemony, we say the same thing, the Ma'afa, the Holocaust, the African Holocaust. All those pieces are correct. As young black men, we face worse odds than any other ethnicity. But I don't try to compare struggles, but
right.
It seems and it appears and it's clear that when the system throws us up, when we go up against the system, they come at us like a pack of stampeding elephants.
Right.
And I just my take on it is that I encourage our community, especially our men, to realize that there is an enemy that's warring against us, and we have to defend ourselves as and always necessary. For my children, I have 3 boys. I had a conversation with a lady, man, a couple of weeks ago, and it was really startling, because she wanted to paint the picture to me how we should be colorblind, and how we should be post-racial, and we shouldn't look at race, and I couldn't do anything but look at her with with the look of, are you serious?
Right.
Because I have boys,
right.
And I can't teach them to come up and not look at race when there's a system that's going to look at their race.
Right.
And that's very clear that they're black boys.
Right.
And that will treat them very differently than their peers of, another ethnic background.
Right.
So, it was a very hard conversation to have, because for some reason she just couldn't understand. She's like, oh, well, I'm Latino, and I have a Latino husband, and my son, he's going to have some struggles because he's half Latino. I was like, he's not going to have the struggle that my son's
black man's have.
He's not going to have that same struggle. He might have the Zimmerman struggle.
Yeah.
And choose it depends on what side of the table he chooses to stand on. But
right.
It's just important for us as men to stand affirmed in our heritage and as who we are as people of African ancestry, and realize that we come from a long line of fighters and warriors who did not back down, who stood their ground.
Right.
In the face of insurmountable odds, and make sure that we orient our children to understand that this is the way the system works, and that these are the odds that you're up against, and learn and teach them how to maneuver in these circumstances, whether it be Patrick Dunn, whatever the guy Michael Dunn situation. I mean, we can all hypothesize how that could have went down a million different ways differently, but it's just unfortunate, man. And we just have to figure out ways to protect our children, teach them how to defend themselves, and be aware that there are individuals and systems that are set up that are designed maybe not by, the guy's intent, but he's been socialized in such a way that he felt as though the value of black life was minimal, or that, whatever he was going through, that the answer to that was firing a pistol into a car full of teens. As far as I'm concerned, I think that we have, minimal recourse in the justice system, because we already have millions of our black males incarcerated at higher rates than any other ethnicity. So that's already painting a picture that, these corporations and states and cities seem to find it more beneficial to lock us up than put money into our communities in order for us to thrive and, to have bountiful, sustainable lives. So we have to create the reality for our community that allows for our children to be cultivated in the ways that we want to see our future to go. So we have to man up and be about our business as to manifesting the reality for our progeny. We can't wait for anybody else to do it, because if we leave it up to everybody else, they'll decontextualize our kids and have them thinking that everything's all hunky-dory. When the reality is that it's not. The health disparities, the economic disparities, the incarceration disparities all show that we're up against we're in a different boxing match than everybody else. But no, we're expecting the system to teach us how to box. The system is,
it's beating us down the whole time.
So we have work to do as far as men in our community, and that says a lot about just our understanding of our historical context. So I affirm that these situations are wake-up calls to younger generations and our present generation, that this is the historical context that we live in, and my hope and my prayer is that bell that goes off will allow for us to orient ourselves to making a difference for our community, for ourselves. And it would, like you said, it's kind of a wake-up call, and sometimes I think, it's God trying to get our attention. And to what extreme does God have to go to for us to wake up and do what we should have been doing the whole time? And I think, going back to a point you made before, in talking about farming and getting back to the basics, something our foreparents, our ancestors did, was teaching us the history and the traditions. And I think, as years have gone on, as a people in this country, we've gotten away from the basics. And like you said, we have to, especially as men, teach our children, especially our young men, because it's like, not only do we have the situation where young black boys are dying at the hands of others, but we're killing ourselves also. So it's like, how much we see that other people don't value black life. But a lot of people will raise the question, do we value ourselves? Well, see, my answer to that is that we're taught, the system teaches the entire society that the value of black life is minimal. Since we're not teaching our children to value black life, they're learning from the system that the value of black life is minimal. So they're just emulating the behavior that the greater system is showing them. So that's why our absence as mentors, our absence as community leaders, as advocates, as program developers, as just role models, is so important. Because when we step aside and we get caught up in our own pathologies, it's the babies that suffer the most. See, the parallel that I draw is that the Asian community, the East Indian community, they don't have those same problems. Okay, that's because their cultural orientation and their traditions are intact. In many ways, they have that shell structure around their community that orients their kids into what they need to be doing owning businesses. You know, their cultural practices are intact. So, you know, that's why you don't hear about pathological behavior on that scale from those communities. So because our cultural practices have been deleted, and we've become kind of ambiguous in terms of what our cultural orientation is. You know, we out here, and we just kind of like which way we do. You know, thankful for the church and for the masjids. You know what I'm saying? Because those two structures of Islam and Christianity for the African American community have been pillars that kept the roof up for many of our youth coming up into adulthood, gave them some parameters and understanding as to what their role and responsibility is in terms of, you know, just life in general. So, you know, it's important for it's important for us to infuse those principles into our communities, and for us to uphold the values that will allow us to survive and thrive. And you know, because there's one thing we got to remember is that, you know, the system is bearing down against us. You know, it only bears against us as much as we push back. Okay. So the moment we, you know, forget that the system or ignore the fact that the system is pushing against us, then that's when things go awry and continue to stay messed up for us, because we already know we're digging out of a 400-year deficit. Okay, you know, slavery, discrimination, Jim Crow, all those pieces. We have not gotten back to what we were before that. Okay, so it's no way to go backwards. You know, only thing we can go forwards. So when we do that Sankofa, was, you know, we go back and fetch what was good and bring it into the future and learn those lessons so that we can move forward. Then we'll begin to understand, okay, this is what has happened to us. This is what we were before. Now we have a bar. You know, of where we need to, you know, of what we need to be doing. Right now we're looking at, well, what's the bar? What is success? What is you know, what is good for our community when we've always been, you know, on the wrong end of an economic disparity. You know what I'm saying? So we have to get clear on what our definitions are as far as what our goals are. You know, and it's not to say anything, you know, confusing as to be like, well, all black people are going to agree on one concentric goal. That's an illusion. We don't have to have that. But once we start identifying the patterns of behavior that allow for us to live the optimal lifestyle. Optimal lifestyles meaning our community is protected, it's resilient, our children are successful, they have limited impasses in between themselves and success. Then, you know, we'll start having changes in our behaviors. And I throw it back to men, but it's all of us. You know, men, women, uncles, aunts. You know, we all have to grow up. And I say that for my generation. You know, I'm 33, and I know a lot of us, you know, we live in a perpetual state of childhood. You know, in many ways. So those vital years, our 20s and 30s, when we should be building our infrastructure so that we can be good. In our 40s, we spend a lot of that time, you know, out here in these streets, clubbing, drinking,
playing around,
chasing relationships, all this type of stuff that are distractions from us being focused on building, you know, the infrastructure so that, you know, we're straight, you know, we're successful, and we're balanced, and we're thriving. So I think that it's an accountability piece for us. That conversation about Jordan Davis is an accountability piece for us, but it's also a reckoning for, you know, other ethnicities as well to realize, okay, this is what is happening. You know, it's easy to turn a blind eye and be like, yeah, I need to do this, that, and the third, but you also have to recognize that there's a system in place that's doing something too. You know, and once we acknowledge those two facts that are coming into play, then we can take an honest assessment and say, okay, well, what can we do in order to bolster this thing and take it to another plateau? I'm prayerful that as we come into, you know, this happened, and the verdict was dropped in, of all times, like days after the homie birthday. before the homie's
the day before, actually. Yeah, the day before his 19th birthday.
During Black History Month, that we will have a chance to really take an eye-opening glare at what is it, we need to address in our community. Like, I know that they used to do the State of Black America,
right,
with Chavis, Smiley, and things like that. But we need those things on a local level in our community to really identify what is it that we need to be focused on? What kind of marketing campaigns do we need to have in our own community addressing our needs? And what kind of financial investment do we need to focus into our community to create the programs that our children will need beyond sports?
Right, sports are there, but...
Yeah, that's great. We do a great job at sports. But... beyond that, man, just in terms of just opening up the panorama of human activity, because everybody doesn't have to be a athlete.
Right.
Though organized sports is a great way to teach leadership and team building, there's other aspects of our lives that those principles are applicable to.
Right.
Okay. So once we start identifying that, we can create these programs for ourselves. We don't need Sally and May to come in and get a grant and orchestrate the program for us. We have businesses we can work in partnership with to empower our own community.
Right.
Once we start identifying that for ourselves and start practicing self-determination and start creating the reality and crafting the reality that we want, then we'll start seeing significant differences in terms of the interactions that we have with the justice system, with the police, or anybody else coming in our community. Like, they'll understand, like, nah, that ain't the way that
that's not gonna fly. Yeah,
we ain't gonna fly with that. That ain't gonna go there.
Right, and I'm glad you brought that up. And one of the things Brother to Brother has been doing over, I guess, about the past year or two, really since I had the idea when right after Trayvon Martin was killed, was this thing of Operation Save Our Sons, which is bringing community organizations and stakeholders and individuals together who are like-minded to really address the issues that are going on. With us for Black males, it's so much, like you said, that we deal with. And again, looking at setting the bar high and getting back to the basics and really giving these young men an opportunity to live life to the fullest. I mean, if you think a young man gets shot down at the age of 14 or 16, it's like, man, he could have potentially had a longer life to live, and no telling who he could have become. Exactly. And so, with our young men dying at a young age, I mean, it's really setting us back. And even our young women, I can't just say it's the young men, but our young women are dying. Our kids, our babies are just dying at a young age.
Happening. One of the things I try to wrap my head around and try to I've been struggling to articulate this, and when you bring that up about it being both young men and young women, I think that for many ways as men, we have to raise our standard and our value for ourselves and what we represent ourselves as when we're out in the community, in the world. And I also think that, women, African American women, have to demand more, from men of African ancestry as well, I want to say to kind of condition men to step their
game up. Yeah.
It's not about how fly your car is. It's not about how much money you spend in a club. It's not about just having the nicest clothes and things. It's not about how good you can dance and just your physique and stuff like that. It's about what is your contribution to this reality.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And what's your stability? And what is your focus? You know what I'm saying? What is your purpose?
Right.
And in all honesty, I think that for us as men, we, for most part, we orient ourselves towards, our own purposes, but in many ways we're affirmed by our, our compliments in the form of the opposite sex, when they identify in us and see that, yes, that is amazing. We love the fact that you are about something and you're doing something. And when women start checking for that more,
right,
they check for the other stuff,
right,
or can understand that even themselves, are change makers, and they have, power to create new realities for their community. Then, there's a different type of interplay happening.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's an interplay of, okay, how can we connect and make an even greater impact, in our lives and in our world, and how can I help you?
Exactly. Yeah.
Your mission and vice versa.
Right.
Right now, it seems like that we just kind of like playing around, man, and I see it in relationships that I've had, and people that I've interfaced with, that there's just a certain glossing over of the eyes when we start talking about what are we going to do for our community, and there's so many different things. We need everything.
Right.
And everybody has a part to play. I do the urban agriculture piece. I do the festival energy, and I create the cultural awareness programs and cultural relevancy and all that type of stuff. But that's only a small aspect.
Yeah, but if everybody did their part, and if everybody, like you said, if we cultivate young people and adults to understand what their purpose is, we could get back to everybody doing their part and doing what needs to be done to build up our community, and build up the world. And people would look at us differently,
right?
And would think, I'll have a second thought of, man, that life is valuable, right. Because not only is he impacting his community, but he's impacting the world, or she's impacting the world. So I believe it would shine a different light on the value of African life.
I think I think you're right. In many ways, people treat you the way that you treat yourself.
Right.
And so, or people only treat you in the way that you allow them to treat you. Yeah. And a part of that is like, how do you treat yourself? So if you treat yourself like crap, then people gonna come in and treat you like crap.
Right.
So, and you'll let them because you treating yourself like crap. So anybody coming in, they like, you stop all over.
Right.
So as our community finesses its own reality and starts to stand affirmed and assured, and looks at themselves as regal and royal,
right,
and deserving of a higher vibration of reality, then everybody else is gonna fall in line.
Exactly.
Because you can't do anything but.
Exactly.
When you see the movie Malcolm X, the scene when Malcolm was in the front and he had all the brothers from Fruit of Islam move like that.
Yeah, they said it's powerful. Let's take this call. Good evening, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing?
All right, how about you?
All right. What are the realities that you want to set forth? And with those realities, how do we get allocated funds to fund the programs that you may be talking about?
Was that was your question? Your
yes.
Okay. We'll answer it. Thank you for calling in. All right. I'll let you go first. Yeah.
There's a couple different ways. What I do in order to fund our activities is that we develop proposals for programs, and we pitch those proposals to various businesses and tie them into their marketing needs for social responsibility. Okay, that's one aspect. So we don't wait for a grant.
Right.
We'll go to a business and say, hey, listen, this is what we're doing. Would you like to invest in this? We do have nonprofit status. Would you like to contribute? Would you like to make a philanthropic investment in your own community? Okay, that financial catapult is for programs that we design that are self-sustaining. We're not always out here just looking for money. Our goal is to create programs that fund themselves.
Right.
Okay, so that's a big piece. Then you also can apply for grants, things like that. I know that may, for some folks, I ain't want to apply for no grant, but listen, there are lots of philanthropic sources that if you have the ability to articulate the problem and have a clear strategy as to what a solution can be, there are people and organizations and foundations that exist that will fund your efforts. Okay, that's one thing. Then on our own level, we spend an immense amount of money as a community on consuming on things that are not necessities. So once we start to identify, okay, what are our priorities, even in our own household budgets, there are funds, or there could be possibly funds in our community to allow for us to develop programs, because it doesn't really take a lot of money. That's the thing that I try to explain. Money is not the issue, okay? The resources that come with the money is the issue, okay? So that's manpower, that's your equipment costs, your material costs, those things. Many times the material costs could be donated, but that resource of time is the most essential, okay? So I can do more. Somebody asked me the other day, would I want somebody to come and give us, $5,000 for no, they were like, do I want to accept 500 people, for one day for a project? And I was like, nah, I can't really do nothing with that.
With 500 people,
I can't do nothing with that. I would much rather have those 500 people spread across an entire year.
Exactly.
And that way I can do a lot more with that. So as far as creating the realities and funding them, you have to first identify what exactly it is that you're trying to change. And for us, like I said, our pocket of this universe is dealing with healthy food access. So, at the max, I think we've developed sites for as low as $700 and probably as high as $10,000.
Okay.
So, based on the scope of what we were doing, our project budgets changed accordingly. Now, our work is not the totality of what we need as a community, but when other entities come into play and start collaborating, then it reduces the cost of what exactly we're trying to do, because there's more people coming to the pot. See, my vision is that, organizations can see a holistic approach to addressing our community's needs and create these partnerships that are essential for us to synergize and push this thing forward, because what the community then sees is a unified front, especially of people of African ancestry in their own community working to address his needs. For the most part now, we see a lot of people of European ancestry coming in and putting money up and funding the program and running the program, and when they get tired or bored or their priorities change, they
drop.
So what we need to do, and what I feel like is imperative for us to do, is for us to realize or just figure out, okay, how much is what we're trying to do going to cost? And there's so many different things that need to be done, but my frame of reference is always around culture and who you are. What is your identity? And those type of programs don't cost a lot of money. There's a lot of folks that are come in and participate, in these different activities to orient our youth, and or just to promote and amongst our community as a whole the cultural awareness piece, because we do Happily Natural Day, and that festival itself is sustainable because we built into it that these are the things. We have vendors, we accept sponsorships. So that's the piece that I was talking about with the proposals, is that a sponsorship will allow for a company, say, idealistic Hawks Barbecue. I mean, I know they're not around no more, but just hypothetically, we approach Hawks Barbecue and say, hey, Mr. Hawks, this is what we're doing. We have a program that we'd like you to fund. This will get, they have this effects, and you can put your name on the logo on all the flyers and have a presence at the event, and that'll help fund our mission. So crafting those type of strategies by tying in the business community and showing that this is a way that you'll be promoted in order to make and helping us making a difference, and this will look good on your, for your business and your brand. That's I think that's one of the ways that we have to start tackling this stuff. Okay.
Well, as we wrap up, I hope the question was answered from the standpoint of Brother Duron. for the caller, if you need to reach me, and we do things with manhood, mentoring, and cultural enrichment also. You can reach me at 539-5647, and we have this Saving Our Sons movement that we're pushing. How can people reach you as we wrap up?
You can reach me at happilynaturalday.com or newrichmond.org.
Okay.
Websites or at Brother Manifest on Twitter.
All right. Well, thank you and God bless.